So on first launch, you'll get something that looks like this. Now, I've now made my window a bit smaller so you can see it correctly in a decent viewpoint. So you have 2 player spawners and a blank map. That's all that's in here. Just loads of grids, which is basically the floor. Island settings is a really important device, which we'll come to. But for now, we're just going to have a little look around. So if you've never used Unreal Engine before, here's a quick overview of the interface. So I use right click on my mouse. I've got a nice little 3D connection mouse. It's actually the middle mouse button as well. But if you hold down the right click, just not always that obvious as the right hand side, hold down right, and you can move around when you rotate the mouse. And I can use the WASD keys on the keyboard whilst holding down the right click to move around. And that then works just like a computer game. And a nice little trick, if while you're holding down the right mouse click button, you scroll your mouse, you can see up here in the top right where it says 0.7, I'm actually scrolling my camera speed. So I can move very slowly, and as I wheel my mouse, I start to speed up and it goes very fast. So that's quite useful if you need to quickly whiz in and out of your scene, and then you want to slow it down because you want to get in really close and have a good slow look around. You get used to just doing that intuitively while you're working. I spend quite a lot of my day with my finger pressed on that right click button. Okay, so that's how you move around. There are other ways. You can hold down your left mouse button to sort of just pan, hold down middle mouse button to go up and down. In fact, if you hold down left mouse button, I think you can drive forwards and back as well, like a car. So just experiment, see which one you prefer. I got quite used to using the game tools because it's the way that I game. So the other bits of the interface you need to know about, if you've seen Unreal before and you know Unreal Engine well, it will look familiar, but then with some key differences. So I'm just going to focus on that rather than taking you through all the UEFN stuff. Like Outliner, still up here with the details panel underneath, and you can control it all the same way. You can right click to create another version of it, or if you come up to window, you can find other windows that you might want to have. So you might want to have 2 content browsers, the cinematics panel if you want to open your sequencer. If you're familiar with what that is, we're going to come to it later for those that aren't. Then we have Verse Explorer up here, which is something you haven't seen before. All of the Verse code goes into here. Now, as I keep saying, we're not going to be doing any work on Verse. I would again recommend Warforge and his videos, which I'll post a link to, because they are the best for learning Verse. I thought they were very well presented and very entertaining as well. So ignore Verse Explorer. You don't need it, but just leave it up there because it's going to keep trying to use it. You might need to open it up again. And now down here, we have our source control systems. We have our snapshot history and our conflict resolution. If you're not seeing any of these, you can try and open it. I think source control is in here. It might not be actually, because I think you have to access it from the bottom. You do. It's down here. Okay. So revision control. Now, yours probably isn't green if it's new. You can open the snapshot history, which is that, or change your revision control system. Now, this is important. I'll just do that again in case I did it too quickly. Click on the button here and then change revision control settings. It's just going off my window there, but hopefully you can see that. And it opens up this box. You've got None, Unreal, Revision Control, and Perfalls. Now, we do use Perfalls at Copper Candle. We rely on it heavily for all of our Unreal Engine projects. And it is probably the correct, sorry, not correct. It's probably the better way of managing your content in UEFN rather than using the Unreal version control. But this doesn't exist in Unreal, and it's actually a really good system. It lacks the finesse of Perfalls. You can't really control how you send individual assets or control the revision of those assets at a granular level. But as a general revision control system, it works really well. And you don't need to do any setup. It's not like Perfalls where you have to build a server for it and create logins. If you've got a team that you've built via the setup process, it will allow you to have access to the Unreal version control. So we'll come to that in a moment. I want to show you how to use it, but for now, I just want to show you that is there. That's that window. So that's all we need. The only other thing that's sort of really important, obviously, is the content browser, which is where everything lives. I'm going to come back to that in a second in this video. And up the top here, this is a bit that looks slightly different. Now, those of you that are used to the little play button, that's gone. And I'm afraid it's pretty hideous. To play test your game, you have to launch a session. And what this does is it opens up Fortnite and launches it on a complete second window of your game running on a different computer. You can specify that it actually connects to a platform rather than on this PC. So I've got that connected because I've been trying to play test on my PlayStation rather than on the computer. The reason for that is that every time you hit that play button or launch session, it takes a really long time to upload all of your content and for Fortnite to log in and connect. And it's rather painful. And then if you want to make a change, you can push that change, but it still takes a long time. So rather than my computer having to suffer all of that and for the editor to lock down while it's loading something up, I have connected platform and I have a logged in session on my PlayStation. And as long as my account's running on both devices, I'll notice it starts loading up my PlayStation, which is quite handy. And then I can play test on that whilst continuing to work and push changes. So you want things like live edit and also start game all ticked on there. Verse, ignore, just keep ignoring verse stuff for now. Get content from Fab. We're going to come to bringing in importing stuff later. Quickly add to the projects, the same as Unreal. This is where you'll find all your basic actors, shapes, lights, cinematic effects. You can see there's a lot less to work with in UEFN if you're used to Unreal. Project, this is where we manage all of our project publication settings. So if you need to get to your creator portal, you can come to it here, manage a team, so you can set up your source control, all done in here. And we'll come to upload and private versions later. We have our usual modes where we can change to, foliage tool to add foliage using a pen or a brush or something, Wacom tablet. So all of those things are still the same. Other than that, it's kind of very similar to Unreal, and we'll probably pick up a few things as we go. So I'm just going to talk you through how to place actors. And again, if you've done Unreal before, this will feel familiar, but there is a couple of very small differences that if I don't explain to you, you'll just get a little bit lost with it all. So the first thing to say is that I'm in my test project content folder. So it started off with just the level that I'm in. It's got my LED systems and a game feature data, which we'll have a little look at later. That's my generic sort of content folder structure. Everything that I want to do in this project will live in here. So this is where I'd create a folder and I'd call it maybe like assets. I'll have a folder for textures. And if you want to know what a good folder structure should look like, find the ALAR guide on GitHub. That is the go-to for all sort of good practices in Unreal, and it applies equally to UEFN. So I'm not going to start building a folder structure now, but we will be creating some folders later. So all of my stuff goes in here. This is everything to do with the project that I've brought in. Now, you might never put anything in here and still create a really cool game because everything you need is actually available here as well. So you've got Fortnite and Epic, two different folders. I'm going to do Epic first because it's less useful. Epic has some of the basics that you find in Unreal Engine that are kind of useful to what we probably think of as engine content. So if I go into my materials, I've got the Epic base. This is like the base material parent that everything else can be made from. So you can see there's a whole load of, sort of standard materials. So if you're doing something that's sort of realistic, or you want to have any architectural elements that aren't in the Fortnite style, you might find what you need in here. So the standard Niagara particle effects, for instance, is all available here. That doesn't necessarily mean that this is the right way to create particle effects. There's a different system that Fortnite has to create some particles, but they also give you access to all of this. So just so you know that there's stuff in here to have a look at, the control rig information on how control rigs are built. That's all in there. But I very rarely have to go into the Epic folder. The most useful one is the Fortnite folder. What's in here? Well, we're going to spend a lot of time going through a lot of these things. Devices is something we're going to spend some time on, looking at how we can build interactions and tools and things that create the playability and the game mechanics. Characters, where obviously our character information is. None of these things are editable, but they're all things we can use. So just to give you an idea, I quite like going to the gallery. The gallery gives me a really good idea of what exists in a set of content. Everything that's ever existed inside a published Fortnite island, and I mean the Battle Royale and the rocket racing systems, it all exists in here. So I can have a look for buildings, and these are all the different types. So Citadel, I don't remember the Citadel before I started playing with Fortnite, but in here you'll see all the bits that are used to make the Citadel. And this is the floor and stair gallery. Now, it's kind of hard to see everything in this way. You know, this is just one set of folders within this enormous hierarchy of content that they're providing for you to use. You know, so if you wanted a pizza restaurant, you know, you probably find that Uncle Pete's Pizza Pit Gallery. The easiest way is actually to scroll right down to the bottom, and you'll see here is a load of, the thumbnails aren't loading, but these are pre-laid out galleries. So if we go back to that Citadel that we were looking for, Citadel was stairs and roofs, wasn't it? So is it this one? That's cloudy. Where are we? Citadel Village floor and stair gallery. So we went into that folder, we saw everything individually, but if we click and drag this Fortnite item, you can see it's already been laid out, and we can pull it into the level and just have a look around. So we can see the individual elements, and we could then select them, pull them out, and put them into our project. So I always start a project by just laying out everything I think will be useful for it, so we can easily find it. So I know, for instance, that I quite like the Colosseum. Where's the Colosseum? Citadel. Colossal. Oh, the Colosseum's not in this section. It's somewhere else. I'll come back to that then. So Colossal is the Colosseum wall gallery. So these are all the bits. There we go. All of the items that are used to make up all of the Colosseum content. Now, there is other types of content laid in here. Now, obviously, you've got something like props, same system that you can go in and have a look, and you find everything's laid out. So foliage, you know, a whole load of cubed trees. So there's your trees. If you wanted to just copy and paste those rather than trying to search for them, they're all in there somewhere. And everything's laid out that way in the gallery section, so it makes it really easy. Particle systems, those are particles. Sounds, if you want to check out sounds, these are all again laid out nicely. VFX, which is different from particles, of course, is also laid out in the same way. So that's all in the gallery section. Now, if we go up back to the Fortnite level here, you'll see that we've got other things, such as prefabs. Now, prefabs is actually a Unity term. I've never really, well, it's not exclusively a Unity term, it's a gaming term, but we don't ever refer to them in Unreal, so it's unusual to see it here. But prefab is a collection of assets that are brought together into one object. So if I go to Cyber City, I'm just picking these at random, you'll see that it's an entire building that has been created for you with all of that content added. So they've taken all of the individual bits and they've already built the building for you. So that's kind of useful. And sometimes on the inside, there are things, this one hasn't got anything, just sort of going. So there we go. Look, there's a bit of a window thing going on there. So this might be part of your game. You might actually use this. You might have to work on it. You might have to delete bits to be able to get inside it. So if I find that Colosseum, well, that's at least just the bottom of it. There's the chunks like that. If I find the Colosseum that we were just looking at, Colosseum, there we are. This has just been built as one great big, hefty 3D model. I'm going to put it somewhere in the sky. And it's so big, it's taking a little while to load. We'll just bask in that sunshine while we wait. There we go. Colosseum. And now that's an epic 3D model that's been built for us already with Heelys and llamas everywhere. It's a really nice asset, that one. So you've got options there for how we build things. We can either sort of take a building like this and modify it to make it work for us using the prefab system, or we can bring them in individually as components like this. So that's all I wanted to talk about with placing actors. We're now going to go into source control and explain how we get all this up into the cloud for other people to work with at the same time and how that works. So I'll see you in the next lesson.